Two big winter storms are coming to the United States over the next few days, and these are going to cause a ton of different problems, including the risk for ice accumulation that will lead to some big travel impacts. In addition to that, we are expecting heavy snowfall that could lead to several inches of snow both today, tomorrow, and as well as this weekend. And then eventually into next week, we are expecting an Arctic blast that could fuel the potential for snow from areas like the southern and central plains back through the Ohio Valley and into the East Coast. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 to 10 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the country today. And we have a lot of moisture now moving across the Midwest and as well as back through the Central Plains. And this will pose the threat for a large winter weather event as we go throughout the day today and as well as into tomorrow, posing the threat for both ice and as well as snowfall. Back over in the Southern Plains, Southeast and Mid-Atlantic region, most of these areas are quiet today, and it'll probably stay like that here for a few more days until we eventually have a more active weather pattern next week. But this is very typical for a La Nina winter, so definitely no surprises here. And then back over on the West Coast, we still have heavy snowfall and rain back over in California, Oregon, and Washington, and this is only expected to continue for the next couple of days. Now let's talk more about this winter storm that'll be impacting the United States over the next couple of days. We'll begin with what's happening out there around lunchtime today. There will be some light freezing rain and drizzle across areas like the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and even back into Virginia. It's very light, but even the smallest bit of freezing rain that accumulates onto any untreated roadways will cause some travel impacts. Eventually, by the evening hours, that's when this starts to come together more, as we're going to have heavy snowfall back over in the upper Midwest, freezing rain across Illinois and also back through the Ohio Valley, and it will start to ramp up back over in Pennsylvania. Overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, that's going to be the heaviest of this freezing rain and snow, especially back over in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and as well as back through New York and Maryland, where we are expecting some significant icing in these areas, which again could lead to travel impacts and isolated power outages. Snow will continue back over in the upper Midwest as well. Eventually, just after sunrise Thursday morning, that heavy snow will start to move into southern New England and across areas like New York, so definitely be ready for some snowfall. Eventually, as we get closer to lunchtime, that snow continues to move to the north and east. I do want to point out that the heaviest of the snow will likely stay offshore during the daylight hours on Thursday, unless you're in extreme southern New England, and even then, we're going to transition to rain and as well as freezing rain eventually by around lunchtime. So overall, the snowfall accumulation does not look to be very significant out of this winter storm. However, there will be several inches in a few spots, especially back over in New England. What I think will be a lot more interesting is the winter storm that we're dealing with this weekend that'll probably be about 2 times worse than this one. Now, this may surprise you, but there are a lot of areas that will actually have freezing drizzle and even light freezing rain, and that includes areas back over in northwest Oklahoma, back through Missouri, and also through Illinois and Iowa throughout the daytimes today. So be careful on the roadways. If they are untreated, or if it's like an overpass, for example, you might want to take it slow out there or just avoid those roads. Back over in the Northeast and as well as the Ohio Valley, that is where the most significant ice accumulation is expected. Many areas could be as high as 1/4 of an inch of ice, and we might even have a couple spots getting close to 1/2 inch of ice accumulation when this is all said and done, especially back over here in West Virginia and southern Pennsylvania, where we actually have ice storm warnings in effect for this region, as there is a potential for upwards of 1/2 inch of ice accumulation, which would have the potential to cause some power outages in addition to major travel impacts. So if you're back over near the Appalachian Mountains, definitely keep that in mind. Elsewhere, glazing upwards of maybe 1/20 of an inch of ice will be possible across Missouri, Illinois, and as well as Ohio and Indiana, and perhaps even around the Detroit area, maybe a glazing of ice there. And then back over in most of Pennsylvania, you can basically expect at least 1/10 of an inch of ice in most of Pennsylvania. A few spots could be as high as 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. Now, in terms of total snowfall accumulation from this first winter weather event, we are expecting most areas in the Midwest between a coating to a couple of inches, but if you're back over in northern Wisconsin or Minnesota, better shot there for around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. And then back over in the Northeast, most of New England, I think, will pick up around 3 to 5 inches of snow. I honestly think this graphic is a little bit of an underestimate. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a few locations closer to maybe 6 or 7 inches of snow. But again, this is a relatively fast-moving system, so the chances of you seeing a significant amount of snowfall, like 10 to 12 inches of snow. However, our winter storm this weekend could produce 2 times more snow than what we're currently thinking out of this winter weather event today and as well as tomorrow. If you're anywhere in southern New England, back through southern New York, or in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, most of these areas are coating to a couple inches. Wouldn't be surprised if we had a couple spots near 3 to 4 inches back over in southeast Massachusetts, but eventually it's just going to go into a freezing rain and then rain event, which would make all that snow slushy anyways. And this is crazy to say, but this winter weather event will actually bring a low risk for tornadoes tonight into early tomorrow morning. Notice this, we actually have wind shear back over in Kentucky and Tennessee. I wouldn't rule out an isolated tornado tonight. Have a tornado action plan ready to go, have ways to receive warnings. We're not going to be live because it's just such a small event. However, we may see a brief tornado out there purely due to the fact that there is a little bit of wind shear out there. Timing looks to be after sunset and into the early overnight hours. So again, just make sure you have ways to receive alerts. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You never know. There's always a very low chance we go live for something like this, but it is a very, very low risk for tonight. Now, beyond this winter storm, we are expecting another one, and it's going to be in a very similar area as we go into Saturday and as well as into Sunday. This will really ramp up Saturday afternoon with some heavy snowfall back over in the Midwest and as well as across the Great Lakes. Freezing rain and sleet once again pretty much in the same area as we go into Saturday, and that'll be areas like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and also back through Maryland. Eventually, as we go into early Sunday, that snow and freezing rain all moves into the Northeast. This could dump a lot more snowfall, though, than the winter weather event that we are talking about that's happening today and tomorrow. So this one right here, definitely one that is going to be a bit more notable, in my opinion. I think we could have a lot of areas over 4 to 8 inches of snowfall, and then that moves out as we go into Sunday and into Monday. Eventually, Arctic air will try to spew in out of Canada as we go into early to mid next week. That could set up some moisture back over along the jet stream, and we may end up seeing some snow and rain along that jet stream across areas like the southern plains and even back through the east coast. Exactly where that snow falls, how heavy it is, and if it'll cause any problems are all still up in the air, as it is still around a week from now. But make sure to subscribe to the channel because we'll keep you posted with the latest. And the GFS model does have a hint of maybe some snow back over in central Texas, but again, I think the chances right now are relatively low for that. And then eventually, anytime beyond really February 12th, things are very uncertain at this point. But this is what it looks like on the GFS model around February 14th. And this is the long-term indications for snowfall accumulation as we get closer to the middle of February. We are expecting a lot more snow back through areas like the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast over the next couple of weeks. This will not just be from one event. It is going to be split across multiple different events. If you're back over in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, or even back into the central or northern plains, we are expecting some snowfall, but probably not nearly as significant as what we're talking about in the Northeast. And if you're back over along the West Coast or through the Rockies, it's just going to be snowing there like crazy here over the next week or so as those atmospheric river events do continue back over there. And if you're back over along the Gulf Coast, confidence is much lower that we're talking about any sort of significant snowfall accumulation. And the odds of seeing greater than 1 inch of snowfall over the next couple of weeks are very high, especially if you are in the Northeast, the upper Midwest, or the northern plains, or if you're anywhere back over near the Rocky Mountains or along the West Coast. However, if you're back over here in the Ohio Valley, Central Plains, or even back through a part of the southern plains like Oklahoma, the odds there are a bit more 50-50 right now. We may see some snow, we might not. It's a little bit uncertain as of right now, but make sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep you posted with the latest on any snow chances that end up existing. And then the chance of seeing at least 6 inches of snowfall between now all the way through the middle of February. Those odds are very high back over in the Northeast and as well as the upper Midwest, but elsewhere it is very low anywhere across the Central Plains, the Ohio Valley, or even back through the Southeast. Florida, I almost can assure you, you're not going to see snow anytime soon as the temperatures are vastly warmer than most of the United States right now. And the temperatures will be on a roller coaster for the next couple of weeks. We are expecting record-breaking high temperatures over the next couple of days, especially on Thursday, where areas like the Ohio Valley could be as warm as the 60s, areas like Texas could be as high as the 90s, and even back over in northern Georgia, many of those areas will be in the 80s. It is going to be very warm over the next few days, definitely unseasonably warm. I mean, again, we're in early February and we're going to have a lot of record-breaking high temperatures. Eventually, as we go into early next week, that is when some cold air will start to spew in out of Canada across the central and northern plains, Midwest, and back through the Northeast. The coldest of that air will be located back over along the Canadian and United States border, but eventually, as we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, we should get a better shot of that cold air across much of the Great Plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Northeast, and that may set up for a little bit of snowfall. And I think if we have any sort of winter weather potential next week when it comes to snow, I think that would be anywhere from around Texas and Oklahoma back through areas like the Ohio Valley, perhaps even as far south as Kentucky or Tennessee. And then eventually, as we go into the following weekend, another shot of cold air will be possible, maybe another Arctic blast. But for the time being, doesn't appear as if we're going to be seeing the coldest weather of the season. This does not look to be a major Arctic blast, but it will at least be something that is definitely going to bring colder weather, which will be a lot more accustomed for winter, and as well as probably some snow and freezing rain. So definitely something to look forward to if you like snowfall, if you'd like freezing rain for some reason. Hey, you might have a few ice crystals hanging off your roof here over over the next couple of weeks, especially if you're back over in the Ohio Valley or Northeast. It's definitely going to be very interesting back over in those areas. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe down below. We should have daily updates here for the next week or two covering all of this crazy winter weather that'll be happening. It should be pretty active here, I think, for throughout the rest of February, so we'll have a lot of videos coming up for you. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest updates.